What's good, everyone? Hope everyone's week is going alright. This week's video is on PED Maxxing and boxing. The title pretty much speaks for itself. Now, people may call it cheating, but the great football coach John McGurk once said, "Cheating is just another way of being prepared." I will only be discussing actual documented cases. With that being said, let's start the video. In 2013, Alexander Povetkin would have his first defeat in an awful shutout performance against Vladimir Klitschko. Coming into 2014, Povetkin would be blowing through guys on his road for the WBC title as Vitaly Klitschko departed from boxing. The title was for easy grabs as the weakest group of contenders came out the woodworks. Povetkin would annihilate Muhammad Char, Carlos Takam, then for the same against Mike Perez in the final title elimination match to fight for the WBC title.
Referee's taking a close look, he's allowing him to continue. I think this should be stopped. He's going to go again. And it's all over. The fight has been stopped in the very first round.
To end the year off, Povetkin would get the TKO victory over Wach in the 12th round. Povetkin versus Wilder was on.
As Deontay Wilder, Teddy has chimed in saying congratulations to Povetkin on the win. Looking forward to having my first mandatory title defense.
With a lot of money on Povetkin's side, Wilder had to fly out to Russia to face Povetkin. Wilder had set up his camp in the UK. I believe Deontay had already touched down in Russia when the news had came out. Povetkin tested positive for meldonium, which is some heavy duty stuff. Within the top tier list, I would say this is like a borderline A. Povetkin was actually tested 3 times prior to the final test, just moments from the fight. Very low IQ decision there. Crazy enough, this is not even 2 years after the Russian doping scandal. Also to note, meldonium wasn't banned by WADA till 2016, so who knows who was also taking the substance prior to the ban. Now fast forward just some months later, Povetkin would pop again, this time for the now known Ulsterine. F-tier banned substance. This here may be even more low IQ of a move because he used the substance against Bermane Stiverne of all people. This man fights like he's low on many things. If anything, Bermane should be on this to even the playing field out. So if you're wondering why Wilder faced Bermane for a second time, a rematch that should have never happened, those events are the reason why. Due to Povetkin popping twice in a row, there was a probe put in for samples he made in 2014 when he had that crazy hot streak where they also discovered he wasn't clean in. This resulted in Povetkin to get banned for 4 years. However, this ban wasn't made till 2024. Rodriguez Jr., most known for his exciting fights at strawweight and one of the most exciting title fights against Katsunari Takayama for the IBF and WBO titles, where he would become the unified champ. Rodriguez would shortly move up and lose to light flyweight champion Donnie Needles and lose to Moisés Fuentes his very next fight. After those back-to-back losses, he was mostly operating in the shadows for 6 years till 2021 he would face Japan's first 4-division champion Kazuto Ioka, which Francisco lost by decision. He'll lose once more the following year against Junto Nakatani. After working back up in the shadows once more, he would find himself against Jose Morales. According to the Boxing Scene article, Francisco tested positive for a banned substance, where the fight was switched to a no contest. However, Rodriguez was able to maintain his position in rank, which is quite interesting because in his next fight, he was up against Gala Yafai for the WBC interim title. Rodriguez would shock many to beat the favorite Yafai by unanimous decision to become the interim champion. Following after the fight, Rodriguez would fail his drug test. 3 banned substances in his system. Octodrenine, which is a stimulant that helps with focus, energy, as well as burning fat. Pretty much a pre-workout you get at GNC. The second substance was heptaminol. This increases your blood flow, heart, and muscle contraction. And lastly, oxylophonin. Now that's heavy duty. This is what Olympic runner Tyson Gay was using. If he didn't have to race against Usain Bolt, he would have been, at that point, a record holder. That's an S-tier substance.
Usain Bolt challenged by Tyson Gay. Usain Bolt 2 clear meters. Tyson Gay in second place, and in third place Asafa Powell.
9.58.
Oxyphenone is like F tier. Heptamino is like D tier, but taking all three at once, this man needs to be banned for 5 years. Back-to-back fights popping on drug tests. He only gets a 2-year suspension, which according to the WBC page, he claimed it came from contamination. Which, okay, the first fight, maybe let's give him the benefit of the doubt, but popping again your very next fight? You and your team can't be that stupid. The most wild thing out of all this is, despite Rodriguez being suspended for 2 years by WADA, the WBC is still allowing him to fight, still acknowledges him as an interim champion, where he will be fighting in a 12-round title fight against the undefeated Angelino Cordova. Lara had came on the scene and became part of the long list of not-so-known fighters from Mexico to get the upset win against fighters from the UK, thus continuing the tradition of the Mexico versus UK curse. He did this not once, but 2 trips in a row, defeating Lee Wood and Josh Warrington. Just as Lara was building up a solid reputation, it would immediately come crashing down as he would test positive for a banned substance. This substance is called beta-methanone. Yes, it's a steroid, but it doesn't have the properties as people are accustomed to. This is used to reduce inflammation. A cortisone shot, which Lara had claimed that he got it injected in his shoulder, but the injection, according to the article, came from dexamethasone. From the boxing scene discussion, beta-methanone can be used for post-cycle therapy. So a person could use this after they have cycled off a banned substance that would not be found in their system upon tests down the road, all while maintaining the gains made from that particular substance. I can only assume that UCAD believes that Lara used it for post-cycle therapy, which resulted in his 2-year suspension.
Because of Marquez's stunning appearance on the scale, followed by his stunning power in the fight, and because there was no drug testing beyond the Nevada State Athletic Commission's one-time only pre- and post-fight test, it suddenly became the public speculation centerpiece of the year's most meaningful overarching story in boxing, which is the sudden emergence of abundant circumstantial evidence that the sport faces a significant performance enhancement problem.
In 2012, through new methods of testing, there was many fighters who had synthetic banned substances in their system, which would have never been found if not for the breakthrough.
The first annual TFG Person of the Year. You couldn't honestly say she's particularly popular. It all depends on what you want. The Person of the Year is Dr. Margaret Goodman. If for years you've been a fan, you first saw Goodman and her identifying flame red hair ringside in Las Vegas in her role as a physician for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. You don't make as many tough decisions as Goodman made in that role without developing enemies, and she did.
Heavyweight Ali Adams would test positive for stanozolol, which is a synthetic anabolic steroid. He was given a 2-year suspension. Enzo Macronelli would test positive for methylhexanamine, which is pretty much in pre-workouts. You can buy it at GNC. Now, some months later, after Enzo, Dylan White would test positive for the very same thing, but given a 2-year suspension, which, given context, this man was taking Jack 3D. The original Jack 3D. That's some heavy duty stuff right there. That's definitely S tier banned substance. Well, what's contained in it. 2012-2013 was around the same time all these stories were coming out about Jack 3D. Another guy I would actually say for a dedicated segment because he was taking 13 banned substances. Lamont Peterson would test positive for synthetic testosterone. His case is a bit of a gray area because he had receipts from the doctor to prove he was on it. His body was producing testosterone at a much lower level than the average man of his age, resulting in a condition called hypogonadism. He was prescribed testosterone pellets to bring his levels back to normal. After a thorough investigation, Peterson was cleared by the IBF.
So Goodman moved on and eventually formed the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, a performance enhancement testing service which moved down the road faster than others in employing a state-of-the-art procedure called carbon isotope ratio testing, and as a result, scored prominent busts of the first 2 star fighters to request the service, Lamont Peterson and Andre Berto.
Antonio Tarver would pop for drostanolone, which is a synthetic anabolic steroid that is used for reducing body fat, gaining lean mass. This was following after the Latif Coyote fight, which was ruled a draw, then turned into a no contest. However, back in 2011, Tarver would face IBO Cruiserweight champion Danny Green. This was a shocker even when it happened, because Tarver had not looked this good offensively since the Roy Jones fight. He was looking like the Magic Man again, which had been missing for a long time. This fight was brought into question. I don't know if they reanalyzed his results from the Green fight and found that substance, but the title was returned back to Danny as a result.
Still, Green takes one. Geez, he's got good whiskers, Danny Green. Both guys do, as Tarver unloads on the world champion, who is back against the ropes. He is now inside the final 10 seconds. Ducking, weaving, hoping and praying Green survives, but he is out.
Now lastly, Andre Berto, who tested positive for norandrosterone, which is a steroid. Now Berto claims it came from contaminated supplements, which Victor Conti would weigh in, stating it's likely due to the amount found in his system.
It took Botha and Margaret Goodman 2 fights to establish the will to enforce standards, which might help to reverse what many observers now see as an onrushing tide of performance-enhancing drugs in boxing. She hasn't done a whole lot of business since then, other than the voluntary public commitment of Nonito Donaire, but for making her point, forcefully, fearlessly, and immediately, Dr. Margaret Goodman is the TFG Person of the Year in boxing.
In 1995, Francois Botha would win a controversial decision over Alex Schultz for the IBF heavyweight title, which Don may have had a foot in, given the fact this is 1995, Botha is under Don King. If Botha brings back the IBF title to America, Don will have a monopoly in the weight class to set Tyson up for undisputed. However, this speculated plan came crashing down as Botha would test positive for steroids. The title will be in a legal limbo till 97 when a court ruled in Team Schultz's favor as Botha was not stripped of the title. U.S. District Judge ruled that the IBF's failure to strip Botha of the title was egregious and it violated their own rules. The judge ordered the IBF to remove Botha as the champion. Crazy enough, there was an appeal from Botha's people and the judge refused to hear it. Now fast forward to 2013, Botha would test positive for his fight against Sonny Bill Williams for, this right here, which is an appetite suppressant. That's F tier right there. Outside of controlling appetite, which would help with losing weight, the drawbacks, far from performance enhancing, from having fatigue, headaches, irritability, and high blood pressure. I don't know about performing good, but it just looked like he was just trying to look good for the fight.
Move this man!
The biggest doping bust of the 2000s till the Russian doping scandal. Many athletes were on the list across various sports. The only boxer that is documented is Shane Mosley, which he admitted he unknowingly was taking the substances in 2003 for the Oscar rematch.
What impact did the illegal performance-enhancing drugs have on Mosley?
He performed very well in what they call the championship rounds. He was probably behind the fight, and he won 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 the end of the fight. Oscar started gassing out, and of course, the reason you take EPO is to increase your recovery between rounds and give you stamina at the end of the fight, and that was the reason that we were doing it, and it seemed to work like planned.
Now, people do like to bring up Roy Jones Jr.'s name alongside BALCO. However, there's no documentation I'm aware of proving he was a client of BALCO or dabbled in EPO. Roy did test once for a banned substance in his fight against Richard Hall in 2000. Roy's defense, he was knowingly taking Rip Fuel without knowing there's a banned substance in it by design, which at that time, that substance was not banned by the WBA and WBC, only by the IBF. Every doping and belt organization followed in by banning it in 2004. If anyone remembers Rip Fuel before it was taken off, the market in 2004. That stuff was literally crack with testosterone boosting elements that you can buy from your local GNC, which was perfectly fine to use for a while in sports. The 90s and 2000s were truly the wild west of supplements / pre-workout before the lawsuits came flying in and doping agencies had caught up. I think the consumer had too much trust in places like GNC that whatever they are selling is fine across the board. It's common now to read the ingredients, but back then, unless you were a competitive bodybuilder or a strongman, I highly doubt it. These guys bought some, took it, loved it so much where they continued to regularly use it in camp, got tested, and since it wasn't banned or the agency that's testing wasn't specifically looking for that as it's not a banned substance, it would just go overlooked for that fighter and athlete to just keep on taking it. Personally, I'll put Larry at number 1, given the amount that he was taking. Larry was part of the 2012 bust. He tested positive for blood boosting with EPO. According to ESPN, Larry admitted to taking 13 banned substances, including steroids, and the S tier of all of them, HGH. Hopefully people will understand there are certainly levels to PEDs. This here is the most damaging substance. Steroids, okay, it's bad, but this is far worse. Completely different atmosphere. HGH changes your whole bone structure, which makes your base bigger and stronger, makes your bones more dense across all boards, which would effectively make you punch harder, less susceptible to injuries, and more. And you're taking with other substances, the end result being very harmful to the opponent, which such an offense, Larry was given a 4-year ban from the sport. Big Baby Miller was becoming one of the most prominent American heavyweight contenders during the dark times in the weight class in the States. He was finally ready for the big fight, which was against unified champion Anthony Joshua. This was set on a massive stage for Miller as it was being held in the Madison Square Garden just outside of Miller's hometown of Brooklyn. So the hype and reception was peak. Miller, being a hell of a self-promoter, made the promotion of the fight amazing. You couldn't have asked for any better of a frontrunner to promote this fight and their brand. Well, good things came to a sudden end. Miller would test positive for 3 banned substances. EPO, which is some heavy stuff, GW 1516, which is some more heavy stuff, and lastly HGH. This is the royal flush, the 3 horsemen of PEDs. Yeah, I said 3. The 4th is not needed for what the 3 is bringing to the table. The blind audacity of thinking you're gonna get away with not taking 1, not 2, but 3 of the most hardcore ultra banned substances in sports. It's outstanding. This would be the 2nd offense as he tested positive for this stuff in 2014. As I stated before, this is found in pre-workout. Miller in 2020, not even a year after the Joshua fight, would test for the very same substance of GW 1516, which resulted in a 2-year suspension. Crazy enough, he received less of a suspension for taking the trio of banned substances compared to the substance found in a pre-workout. He had a 6-month suspension for the Joshua fight, and for the 2014 offense, it was a 9-month suspension. So who do you think was maxing the most? Leave in the comments. And on top of that, this is PED Maxxing and Boxing. For more videos like these, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe. Subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. I'm Elvis Hancho, and I'm out.